Question number 26 on the reading portion of College Boards Test 5. Which statement best expresses a relationship between organic farming and conventional farming that is presented in the passage? Organic farming and conventional farming. Realize this is a quote question, so realize that we need to answer in 27 a very direct question, which is, what is the relationship between organic farming and conventional farming? So what's the relationship going to be between these two things? Seems like a very broad question, actually. So chances are, I think this is going to be a hard question. Which statement best expresses a relationship between organic farming and conventional farming that is presented in the passage? Let's take a look. We're going to have to obviously answer this and solidify the answer with 27, but let's take a run through with 26 and see what we can come up with. I almost can't pre-answer this question. I can't come up with my own answer because it's so broad, I don't even know where to start about the relationship. Both are equally sustainable. That probably bothers me because I think if I remember correctly, they say that the traditional farming is not sustainable because it says that there's too much nitrogen that ends up in the water. And if we read line 70, what is that, 72 to 74, we're already putting more nitrogen into the soil than the planet can stand over the long term. It means that means that conventional agriculture is not sustainable by definition, based on what the passage said. So I'm not liking both are equally sustainable, but, so what's the difference? They differ dramatically in the amount of land they require to produce equivalent yield. Oh, this is such a good answer. Bad answer. Such a good bad answer. You guys picked it, or some of you picked it, and you got trapped because you focused only on the second part. This happens sometimes when you have a two-part answer choice. Is you focus only on the second part because it said something that was just hammered into your head over and over again. And you ignore the first part, which is both are equally sustainable. Are both equally sustainable? No. They didn't say that. They didn't say both are equally sustainable, even though they did talk about they differ dramatically in the yield. Not like an A. What about B? Remember, we care about the relationship between organic farming and conventional farming. Both rely on artificial chemicals for pest control. I don't think they said that. They said that I think conventional agriculture has, and conventional agriculture, line 74, also depends heavily on chemical pesticides. They don't say about what the pesticides are for artificial chemicals with organic farming. If anything, I would infer, even though they didn't say it, that they wouldn't use that. But nonetheless, we don't know that both rely on it. We only know one of them relies on it. So I'm not liking B either. But organic farmers use the chemicals sparingly in conjunction with natural remedies. That's an answer choice that if you picked it, that's what you think happens. You think, oh, if it's organic, it's good for the environment, it's healthy, the people care a lot. So they're going to be smart with the way that they use their pest control, and they're going to use natural remedies when possible. Never said it. They just never talked about it. B is way worse than A. What about C? Both use nitrogen to encourage plant growth. Okay, but the nitrogen used in conventional farming comes from synthetic sources. Notice how they mask the right answer. I always say the only job of the College Board is to make right answers look wrong and wrong answers look right. And in this case, they're making the right answer look wrong really well. Yeah, let's leave C because again, don't they say actually on how one of them, conventional agriculture, makes use of synthetic fertilizer? And what does organic farming use? The slower release of nitrogen from compost. So they do use nitrogen. They both use nitrogen, but one of them uses it synthetically. They make it in a factory, and one of them uses it from compost from naturally occurring sources. I think that's going to be the answer, and that was the quote that we read. And this is such a good, these are amazing questions. They're amazing questions. This is, I think, one of the best passages, one of the best science passages. I think the best science passage they've done so far. The questions are so well done. Both create a substantial amount of nitrogen runoff. D is a good bad answer because you settle for it. You're confused. Maybe you pick A or maybe you pick D because you were confused. You didn't know what was going on. You got rid of C because it almost sounded like it was the wrong answer. They wanted it to sound wrong. Both create a substantial, look at D, of nitrogen runoff. But here's our problem with that. We don't know whether or not organic agriculture produces substantial nitrogen runoff. We only know that in conventional fertilizer, in conventional farming, that it ends up in running off in the soils and oceans. So both create a substantial amount of nitrogen runoff. I don't know if organic agriculture has runoff, but only the type of nitrogen found in fertilizer used in conventional farming can be dangerous. Like, that's ridiculous. That's like saying, like, it's like, oh, this water is special and this is, you know, it's like they're identically the same compound, but one of them's magically better than the other because it's organic or natural. That's ridiculous. We don't know, first of all, what organic agriculture produces. We don't know if it produces nitrogen runoff. They never talk about it. They only talk about nitrogen runoff in the context of conventional fertilizer and conventional agriculture. And furthermore, it's kind of ridiculous to, I think, not only do they not say this, but it's ridiculous then to believe. But they're preying again off your understanding that organic is healthy and it's natural and it's safe. So you might then want to believe, well, the nitrogen that they use in conventional agriculture is not bad. No, don't make stuff up. I think the answer is going to be A. Oh, no, sorry, I lied. The answer is going to be C. Realize both are equally sustainable for A. It's not true. The answer, I think, is going to be C for 26, but just to be sure, let's take a look at the quotes. Question number 27 on the reading portion of College Board's Test 5. So 27 is the evidence question for 26. Realize I think the answer for number 26 is going to be C. I encourage you, if you didn't watch question 26, to watch it because, again, this lesson on this passage alone, same thing with, I think, even 24 and 25, invaluable. So we think the answer to 26 is going to be C, but let's take a look at the quotes for 27. So in order to answer this, I like to even completely ignore the answer choice for 26. Let's just answer the question that's being asked by reading quotes and reading the question for 26. So we need to find the relationship between organic farming and conventional farming. And it goes both ways. We have to realize that this is, if the quote doesn't talk about organic farming and conventional farming, we have a big problem. And that's a nice way to just cut through all of the unnecessary information and get to the essence of what the question's asking. What's the relationship between conventional and organic farming? That's it. Anything else, if it's only talking about one or the other, no good. So let's take a look at 13 to 14. Does this talk about the connection between organic farming and conventional farming? Conventional industrial agriculture is becoming incredibly efficient on a simple land-to-food basis. That says nothing about organic farming. Can't be A. Think of it that way. It's as simple as that. If you know what question to ask, the answers become very evident. What about 22 to 26? Does this talk about organic farming and conventional farming? And since a third of the planet is already used for agriculture, destroying forests and other wild habitats along the way, anything that could help us produce more food on less land would seem to be good for the environment. Does this talk about conventional versus organic? No, it doesn't. It's just saying, yeah, it's nice if we don't destroy forests in order to, sow crop. And they never talk about conventional organic farming there. Not a fan of B. What about C? Does this talk about organic and conventional farming? They found that organic farming delivered a lower yield for every crop type, though the disparity varied widely. I guess that is implying that organic farming delivered a lower yield with respect to conventional farming. But, so maybe you could say that maybe talks about both. But do they ever say that? Do they say that, what's the relationship that conventional farming is more efficient than organic farming? That's not an answer choice for A, B, C, or D. So this is, again, I'll leave it because it talks about organic and conventional farming. Realize C for 27 doesn't match up with any answer for 26. What about D? Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question, 61 to 65? Relationship between organic farming and conventional farming. Conventional agriculture makes use of 171 million metric tons of synthetic fertilizer each year. So that's conventional agriculture. It's talking about synthetic fertilizer. And all that nitrogen enables much faster plant growth than the slower release of nitrogen from organic farming. Not only does this talk about the relationship of conventional agriculture and organic agriculture, but it talks about how both use fertilizer, both give off nitrogen, but the fertilizer used in conventional agriculture is synthetic, which nicely matches up with answer choice C for 26. Realize that C for 27 doesn't match up with any of these answer choices. D is the one that not only explicitly says a relationship between organic farming and conventional farming, brings up both of them in the quote. It also matches up with this idea that both use nitrogen, but the one used in conventional farming is synthetic. They say that. It's not inferred in a way, it's directly stated. The answer number 26 is going to be C, the answer number 27 is going to be D. Amazing question.